That gave me goosebumps. That video gave me goosebumps. How's everybody doing? Just want to roll that video again, man. Shit. Everyone, hi. No, don't roll it again, Paul. But I kind of want to roll it again. That was pretty sweet. Hi, everybody. It has been a while since we've done this. It feels like been too long. We have lots of pretty sweet updates today. We're here with pretty much the usual cast and crew. We've got Matt Bell, our art director, Dawn, design director, Jason, engineering director, and Manuel, senior producer on the project. You guys all know him pretty well. We got lots of stuff to show. I feel like we should maybe just kind of get to digging in here. Oh my God, I'm looking at all the crap we have. We have so much stuff, guys. This is great. This is pretty great. Go for it, man. Well, you want to talk about the Shipwreck, guys? I think the Shipwreck is, we've been working really hard on this, and big shout out to Platform and everyone at Gala that's been helping us get this together. It's complex. We're trying to make it easy for you guys and a cool experience, but behind the scenes, there is quite a bit of tech that we had to develop.
But wait, before we do the Shipwreck reveal, guys, you have to smash the like button. Yes. Subscribe. And if you really want to help the algorithm, you got to share the video, post it on Twitter. It's the sharing, that's the secret sauce for the algorithm.
Share that smash button.
All right, well, Paul, let's roll the Shipwreck teaser, and then we'll talk about it. So next Monday morning, 11 a.m. Pacific. So do the whole Central Eastern conversion on your end. And it's 150, which, I mean, the market's kind of up and down, but I think it's 0.07 as of the morning.
There are many, many things in those boxes, guys. A lot of really cool stuff. And what we endeavored to do is we looked at the secondary market and tried to make sure that the boxes are, everyone's at least cool, and many of them are a massive winner for you guys. So we've worked hard to make that so. And inside the boxes, there's stuff in them. What are some of the biggest prizes inside those boxes, Manuel?
Farming hamlets, homesteads, elves, lanterns of the sun, all the remaining 58. I mean, an outpost would be great. There's
a lot of stuff in there. What's the total number of prizes again?
Like of the boxes or prizes? Yeah. We have 69 boxes.
Many. Anyway, guys, we hope that's cool. And we've worked really hard to get this. Platform had to work really hard. There's a lot of tech in there. There's opportunities to get things like all 10 of the cards that you need to get the dragon familiar, right, Manuel?
Yeah, there's actually 10 that have the full dragon pack
set in them. Yeah, so it was a lot of work to kind of make all that happen, guys, and the experience should be pretty good when you open it and be fun and cool. So it's taken a long time to get it there, guys, but we're trying to make sure that it's bug free and that you guys can just dig in and have a good time with it. So December 4th, right? Am I mathing that right?
Yes.
December 4th, guys, is when they go live.
Yeah, and there'll be a blog that will go out almost now. I'll ping the guys right now. I know they'll have all the information, and you can actually see the list of all the items. Yeah.
Next, bit of a community shout out, actually. Dr. Wookie is a new Viscount in the game of Mirandus, and then there's a mysterious mysteriouswallets.com, guys. Somebody swept up a Town of the Prince, Lantern of the Sun, a large dairy, a potion shop, and 3 firebrand steeds. And we don't know who this person is, but that's pretty cool. It's a mysterious new prince in the realm as well. It's kind of fun. We've got many updates, guys. We have design, we've got tech, we've got all sorts of art stuff. But Don, why don't you kick us off with some design goodness?
Absolutely. So, design has been obviously hard at work on a lot of different things. Goes without saying that much of it we do have to keep under wraps. So you have to keep some mystery. But we'd love to share to start with some UI updates.
Actually, Don, let's be real clear about this, guys. There was like 3 videos that we were going to show. Yeah. And we looked at them right before this, and we're like, "Shit, that gives up too much. It just gives up too much. Too many. It'd be too leaky." So
it's fun to explore. It's fun to find things. It's not so fun to find out, before you even get a chance to look at it in game. So, but we absolutely can share some really excellent UI updates, which are crucial for the sort of feedback of not only our systems but the gameplay itself. So, if we want to roll that beautiful bean footage.
Yeah, the new game intro is feeling real creamy, guys. Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's awesome.
So nice, right?
It's great.
I wanted to mention that Todd ducked out earlier. Otherwise, he would have presented. But he's been working pretty closely with David to get these things in.
That's cool. They're a deadly team.
Yep.
So fast.
We got to get David on the show, huh?
So some of this stuff was in the tech test. I'll call out that these are also both built to support our damage types. So there's a lot of good feedback that's going to be required for that, for vulnerable, resistant, and these are built in. Oh, they're showing them. Awesome.
That's cool.
So you have the double line.
Oh, that's
Yeah, if you guys don't know, the vulnerable resistance states are going to be very, very core to our gameplay. So getting this stuff up and running is going to be a big boon.
There we go. That's it.
That's rad.
Awesome. Yeah, and obviously we're giving a little bit of a teaser there that the damage types are in. We're working on them hard, and we're integrating them into armor and weapons and everything else. And it's a sort of horizontal progression that you'll hear more about as we go forward.
And a reminder that we're showing these videos, guys. There's all these videos are from kind of our month-end review that we do on the project. So you'll see us coming up and talking. We're just taking this straight out of our team review meetings, guys. So hoping you like that. Hoping you like that sausage. Jason, a tremendous amount of technical work was achieved, brother.
Yeah, it's been a couple of months. I want to emphasize that we've been really hard at work doing all sorts of stuff, even though we haven't been communicating as much as we'd like to. The right answer, I think, was for us to hold this until we had everything that we could show about Shipwreck. And a big part of what the tech has been super busy just getting a whole bunch of things done. But that means that we have a lot to talk about, right? So in the last couple of months, I've been working really closely with Barry to try and get the voice conversion system in. And what we actually did get the fully AI driven version of it in, and it was gobbledygook. We kind of showed that a little bit last Fireside Chat. It was just barely working then. It didn't get much better. So we actually went and did a lateral and went to a completely different system that has real-time voice chat without AI conversion. And I mean, McCarthy, you tell me, you said you had some trouble with the UI because it was a programmer UI, but you and Manny went running around after you figured it out, and it was like, how did it go?
No, that was great, guys. I mean, one of the things that we know that we promised you guys and that we want is you're trying to be there. Part of being there is being able to look over to your right and tell your friend, dude, slow down, be careful. So getting voice into the game has been, a tremendous challenge. And now it is in, and it is a bit janky, but we got it tuned. You have to tune the microphone because it's kind of always on. And we'll have more options over time, guys, like tap to speak and a few things like that. But it was just an awesome moment. That's that picture at the beginning of the Fireside Chat where there's a guy on the top of a temple overlooking great distances. That's Manuel. Manuel and I battled our way to the top of that temple, and I just turned around and I saw him standing there, and I just captured that screenshot. But we were able to talk. We were able to speak the whole time. So it is a tremendously difficult thing to do, and it is stood up now. Probably expect it to be just getting better and better over quarter. But to have that experience of talking to your adventurer, your friend next to you, it's just awesome. It's awesome.
So we got that in. Actually, a good amount of that time was me figuring out how to handle microphones properly in Unity. It turns out not many people have done it. So even Googling it didn't help. ChatGPT sent me the wrong direction. So by the time we got it all working, it was like, okay, yeah. I even got it so that if your computer goes to sleep and you're playing Mirandus, when you wake the computer back up, it reacquires the microphone and it continues recording. So it's really solid. Like I'm proud of it. I could sell that separately if I wanted to. So anyway, yeah, that, and then there's a bunch of other stuff that happened. Barry got a really awesome compression system in. So normally the amount of audio that comes off of a microphone is about 16,000 bytes per second. It's not a lot, but it's not small. And if we've got 10,000, 50,000 users at one time, that's a whole lot of data going through the server. So we can't afford that. So I built a noise gate. So anytime that everything is silent, we send nothing. And when there is something there, we want to compress the crap out of it. And Barry got this really awesome compression system from Google. And it turns out that they have this super smart AI-driven compression that you can't even tell that it's being compressed. We did it with and without. No one could tell. I could just look at the amount of data being sent across the network, and it's way, way lower. It's actually 40 times compression. So an entire second worth of audio is only 400 bytes. Like I've seen legal signatures and emails that are longer than that. So I'm pretty proud of that. So anyway, Barry got that in, and we wired that all up about 2-3 weeks ago, and everything's been humming along ever since. We've got voice conversion. So I mean, just to back up, voice conversion is so that you can talk to your friends while you're playing, but we also want to protect the gender or the way that you talk. And so we want to make it possible for you to be able to say, I'm playing a female orc right now. I want to sound like a female orc, even though I'm a dude. Or maybe I want to sound like a female orc, but I want to be, if I am actually a woman, I can sound like the character rather than sounding like myself.
I just want to sound like James Earl Jones. This whole system is being built so that I sound cooler and my voice is deeper.
That's where I'm going with it. Like I'm going to have special like McCarthy button that's like I sound like McCarthy. So when we get this all up and running, it's this thing called RVC. Barry's partway through it, and it's actually coming together pretty well. We haven't hooked it up in the game yet, but it's basically like a voice conversion system that you can kind of get and install separately, but we're going to integrate it directly into the game. So when we get it in, it may not be there for Q1. We're going to try. But when we get it in, it should give us a lot of options, and we should be able to tune the characters so that they sound like good defaults, and then you have some adjustments on top of that.
And the voice that we had in there too, it's not going through Wise yet, right?
No, it's actually just going straight through Unity. If we can get it through Wise, I think we'd like to, because then we get nice reverbs when you go into a cave, and like it'll sound like you're in an open field when you're in an open field, that kind of stuff.
That was missing a little bit. It sounds like, so you're on a phone call and you're in the game. You need to sound like you're all in the cave together, Yeah, that's going to take a little bit more effort. We probably won't get there for Q1, but that's where we want to go with it. Like we're just getting the data across the network and back and out the speakers was the real lift here. So there's all sorts of that happened. And then there was this really amazing piece of tech that Angel wrote about 2 months ago, which was just before the last time we did Fireside, where instead of everybody having to do the animation,
for every player that they get packets for. Like going through the motion matching system, super expensive. What we discovered is that we could actually send that data straight through the network. So I do my own, and then I can tell you what I look like, and it cuts all this CPU off. And now you can basically render people the way that they appear. And what's really cool about that is we also are, and I'm working on it this week, we can LOD down your character so you have smaller and smaller packets as you get farther away. So when you're really close, you get the full detail, like all my fingers and everything like that. But when you're way far away, I just need to know where your arms and legs are and where your head's facing. Like, I don't need the rest of it. So that's part of our LOD solution, and it's also it's leading in the right direction. One of the things that I ended up having to do is find a way to compress that data too, because we don't have infinite resources and we don't want to just hammer you with data. So I built this thing that as far as I know, I've never heard of it before, but I invented it, called a progressive normal table, that allows you to, for every bit you add, it has higher fidelity. And so the quaternions that are there for rotations and the amount of data that's there for translation for every joint actually has a dialable amount of precision. And what's interesting about that is also we can start with the high detail version, dial it down, and it still approximates the original values that were there. And that allows the server to do LOD really cheaply.
I was gonna build that, Jace.
Oh, were you? I could have just taken yours.
I got busy, dude, but I was gonna. So I'm glad you hit that.
All right. Well, I mean, I'll let you do it again if you want. I don't know that I did a good job, but
yeah, I'll get code review that. Send that over to me, man. I'm gonna make sure.
Dude, I'm looking for that pull request right now. So among other things, we got highly compressed character animation in, and now we're doing 15 updates per second roughly, instead of the 5 that were in the last tech test, which means we've reduced the latency. So basically when people are moving around, there's not such a swimminess. So if you and your buddy are playing right next to each other, you'll see him move, and he'll move almost exactly the same time on your screen. So all of those things are trying to tighten up the experience so that monsters and players and you all kind of feel like you're in the same world at the same time. That's pretty challenging, especially when you have, 1,000 players and monsters running around in the same zone. Or is it 5,000 or 20,000 now? I can't remember.
I think the promise was 5 million in one zone.
5 million. Okay.
In one zone.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to write that one down.
We have promised you guys, and it's, if you walk into a citadel or you walk into an area and you cannot see 100 or 200 people all standing there moving around, it just doesn't feel right. So, we're targeting 1,000 things in a zone made up of you and the enemies kind of combined, and that we feel like that makes the zone feel real and feel populated. And I think even in the last deck test, seeing 50 people just moving around. My favorite shot from the last tech test was actually in the Citadel, where people were moving around between the crafting stations. It just felt like a living city. So all of this is just ongoing tech, guys, to ensure that we can have that many of you, that you'll be able to speak to each other. You'll be able to hear conversations far away. You'll be able to have your Lord of the Rings moment of 100 of you cresting a hill, shooting arrows, So that's just an ongoing thing for us to make sure that you guys can have that experience and that it's performant.
And we're putting a lot of effort into making it performant. That's actually one of the bigger challenges that I'm sure Matt can talk to later. So Brandon has been building all sorts of support for asset bundles, which is I want to call it a love letter to our fans, because basically every time you have to download a new build of the current game, you have to download 2.5 gigs worth of stuff, most of which is the same stuff you downloaded last time. And asset bundles is what you're used to seeing, like when you download a game and it's really small and then it has to download a giant amount of extra stuff, but it only does it once. That's what this is. So having Brandon work on that the last couple of months, he took a system that I wrote 5 years ago and he improved it and made it actually work properly. And so now our build servers are building in about 10 minutes instead of an hour. And the executable size is right now, it's about 400 megs, mostly because of the audio. And we'll eventually get that into asset bundles too. It used to be about 2.5 gigs. So it's making a huge difference. And once you download, the only things that you have to download again are the things that we've actually changed. And hopefully in the future, we break things into lots of little bundles. And once something is downloaded, it just stays on your hard drive. So that's huge. And Brad's been helping with that. But one of the other things Brad's helped out with is he built a auto texture atlasing material system for the environment team. And what that, so I guess a theme that you'll hear me talk about is that we want physical materials or some kind of, it's a game design and art material where a thing that represents a specific kind of physical material in the game has a certain appearance, and you can depend on that pretty much throughout the whole game. And so pine is going to look like pine in every zone and on every piece of armor, or if it's a weapon, or if it's a building, or if it's in the ground, it's going to look like pine. And when you shoot an arrow into it, it's going to react like pine everywhere. And part of that is making it so that the artists have a library of materials that is all of those physical things, and they can just map those onto the different faces of geometry. And whenever they get imported into Unity, it automatically textures all those things into this atlas where it's one really big set of those materials. And then the reason we do this, because performance, we want to be able to render the whole world in one draw call as much as possible. And that's not really feasible, but for all the things that we put in the world, like props and for buildings, and not for characters, that's different, but all the other static geometry, we want to try and merge them all together into this one kind of material so that when we draw the thing, we can batch them all together, and spatially coherently we can turn them on and off based on whether they're in view or if they're occluded or whatever. So we've been putting a lot of effort into the tooling for that, and now we have, because of Brad's work, means that he can assign meaningful physical materials, and the designers can go and tweak things like how brittle or how strong a material is, or what sounds are supposed to be on those materials whenever you walk on them, things like that. So that's part of what Brad did. He also made it so that the terrain materials, which they're a completely different thing in Unity, they now get mapped to physical materials, and all of that data now gets exported to the world sim, where I'll talk about what Jonas has been doing, but it's used for collision, it's used for calculations on whether arrows shatter, it's being used for spawning so that we can kind of tell where monsters and where harvestables should be. Like, it would look weird if trees were growing out of rocks. We want them to actually come out of moist areas like wet dirt, mud, things like that. And we want iron ores and things like that to show up in areas where they're hard instead of like in the middle of water. So that kind of stuff has to all make its way to the server somehow. And a big chunk of that was what Brad did. Angel has been working on all sorts of character related tools to try and improve the workflow. And a lot of that is remembering how this was built back in January of this year. Was it this year? I can't even keep the years straight anymore. Yeah, it was January this year, and basically all of that stuff had kind of rotten a little bit. So getting the animators able to import quickly and get the characters into the game quickly. So he did all of that stuff to try and make it so that we could iterate faster, and also use the skinning system that allows us to draw 1,000 characters in one draw call. Similar but different from the environment art problem. The other thing, couple things that Angel did that are just super amazing is he fixed the brute at the gates problem. No more brute at the gates. I mean, it'll be there, but you'll know whenever you log in, it's like, hey, oh crap, there's a brute there. I might have 2 seconds to run before he clobbers you. So there's at least a chance. Used to, it would create your player in the zone, and then your client would start loading. And then if you had a fast enough machine, you might see your dead body on the ground by the time the brute finished with you. But most people would just show up and you're dead, and there's nothing else to do. Now what happens is it actually loads in, and as soon as you arrive in the zone, that's when it spawns the character. But there's a little bit of fade time when you're like going from a dark screen to a visible screen. We want you to be there before the fade out happens, or fade in happens.
Control. I mean, that's what it was. You didn't have control of your character. Yeah. You were there, but you didn't have control of it, and you were dead by the time we turned control of your character over to you.
Exactly.
Now you can squeal and run away. Right.
You have at least a couple seconds, and maybe you'll start hearing the screams before your screen fades in. So I think that's huge. Like that's one of the biggest complaints, but also one of the more memorable moments of the previous tech test.
I like the brute at the gates.
Brute at the gates is amazing. I'm glad we had that experience so we could fix it. So the other thing that Angel also did at my request is we started building an item permission system. An item permission system isn't a blockchain thing, but what it is a way for us to help control how items get handled in the game. And MMOs are full of this kind of like, oh, you can do this, but you can't do that. And we need that because there are goblins that are going to be spawned with items on them that we don't want you to get when you kill them, because that's what our crafting systems are for, right? So we don't want them to drop all their swords and all their bows, because then suddenly you've just flooded the market with all these extra items. So instead, you kill them, they don't drop those items, but they use them. What they do drop is the things that they're supposed to be dropping, like Materium or other crafting components that you might need. So that's not just about goblins, it's also about how you deal with items in the entirety of the game. Like, can you equip these things? Can you drop these things? Can you trade these things? We can now create items that can't be traded if we want to. And there's a lot of deeper things that we need to do with that. But having the items permission system just roughly put together means we have a place to put more content like that and add more things, and we can wire up more cool stuff for the design team to make decisions about, which is ultimately what makes a game. Let's see. Eric Folland he did a lot of cool stuff. Let's just go ahead and roll that video, Paul.
So I've got 3 changes I want to talk about today. Probably the most obvious one will be this arrow showing up on the bow. I know it's been very confusing because I added ammo, and when you have no ammo, you can't shoot, but you'd still have that arrow on the bow. So I have fixed that now. That's probably not in the build that was sent out, but it'll be in build soon. But you can see that I'm about to shoot my last arrow here, and there's no arrow on the bow, and my character realized that and had another stack of arrows in the inventory and put that in. You can see that transition there. Next change I want to show you is that shatter now arrows now properly shatter based on the material they hit. So on rock, I think it's 100% actually, that they're just going to shatter. If you shoot it into the ground, into the dirt, they're not going to shatter. And wood is sometimes. And that's the server determining that. And when goblins shoot arrows at you, they get the same kind of determination. So that's all synchronized, working properly.
Awesome.
Yeah. We can't pick them up yet, but that's in the plans eventually. And then the last change I want to talk about is, this has been coming, but you can go to this cemetery. Imagine a beautiful cemetery made by an artist and not by a programmer like me. But we've got this slab for now. You can go up to this. It says press F to interact at the bottom. This is kind of the starting beginnings of a building shop. No designer has taught me or told me what to do here, but this will all get fixed up. I think Todd's going to be doing that. But right now, this is basically a mechanism to say, hey, I want to respawn at this cemetery. And that comes in the form of this revive charm that you get. And you can see in the tooltip here, it says, if one resurrects you at Narrow's Landing. This is part of the core loop that Don was talking about. This is not implemented fully the way that we're going to be doing it. But right now, if I do a little hacky hack and I just say die, and I just pretend I got killed by a goblin or something, this is what's going to happen so far. You restart the game, which isn't actually restarting the game anymore. You get to keep your stuff. That might change, not sure. But now I'm going to respawn right where I bought that charm at this cemetery in Narrow's Landing. And you can see my health and energy are at 25%. And I still have all my stuff. So that's kind of the free revive. You might actually get reset on the free revive. I'm not sure yet, but that's partway progress to the core loop death revive stuff.
Yeah, and I think tech-wise, like one of the things that Jason always talks about is that we have this item system in the game. Items have data and stats and logic and things on them. So you're going to want to know in the game, what we're thinking is that you go to a cemetery, you tap on the altar, and you are now bound to that cemetery. That is where you will return if you die. And we need that logic held somewhere. So you're probably going to have like a revive a scroll or stone or something that is you can hover over in your inventory and be reminded of where you bound yourself to, where you will revive from if you die. So standing up that tech is really what you saw there, but that won't be the actual flows. The flows it's more like a purgatory. When you die, you're actually going to go to a space, that space that you go to before you go to the light, and you'll be able to make the choice in there to come back via Materium or come back a little less of who you were when you first went in. So we actually I think we have some of that.
Yeah, we have in Matt's section, we'll show a little bit of the VFX for the purgatory.
Yeah, it's coming along. Eric's actually working on it right now. The hard part is that there's a lot of different pieces to this, and if we tried to wait until all of it was done, we'd never get there. So that's what the iterative version 1 of standing up the full death loop was what we just saw. It's going to take a little longer before we get everything, but I'm excited because what that means is as soon as we have a full death loop, you have a place where you can spend Materium to come back. You have, a lot of the things that haven't been really there for players when they die is going to show up really soon. So I'm looking forward to that because that's when we start really getting a feel for how punishing can we make Mirandus, and Don, this is all Don's territory, but how does it work whenever a player dies, and what happens to all the items? And some items are NFTs and some things are not, and what do we want to do with those things?
Well,
I just want to make it possible.
Choice, the strategic choice of where do you bind yourself to from a cemetery standpoint. You could bind yourself to one that's maybe a very large town with everything you need in it, but as you venture closer to the mouth of a dungeon, there's a small cemetery over there, in a small deed. You're like, gosh, should I bind myself to that? But maybe it's a more dangerous location, but you'd be closer to the mouth of the dungeon if you wanted to return. So anyway, I love that strategic choice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff. So we're more than halfway through, I think. I'll see if I can hurry up. Eric also has been working on this really amazing thing called function immutables, which those words won't make any sense to you guys, but basically think of it like the trencher and the bread when you'd go up to a shop and you'd go and buy them. It did something to you instead of giving you an item. That's what a functional immutable is. And we're going to do the same kind of thing for the healing tent. Instead of you walking up and getting it for free, you'll give it, I don't know, Materium or something, and then you get healing for it. So all of these kind of features are hard coded. We threw that stuff right into some code so that we could get it up and running for the last tech test. That's not how we want it to work. We want there to be effects, and those effects are something that we can assign to items or assign to something that would be an item but isn't an item. So trencher, bread, healing, that kind of stuff. But what's cool about it is because it fits in with the item system, again, we're going really deep on making sure items can do all sorts of things. We could put them in loot tables. So, for example, and this isn't necessarily going to happen, but maybe you can go into the middle of town and you drink at a wishing well. You put in 1 Materium and you drink at a wishing well, and you get a roll on a loot table of what the effect is. And it could be you get healed. Maybe you get poisoned. Maybe you get a haste spell. Maybe it does something really amazing, like it gives you a ring of discord, a ring of something else. I don't know. But you get something out of it. And it's this sort of like you're taking a risk and maybe something happens, maybe nothing happens. But it's something.
Ron does not approve of this message.
I want design to be able to do this kind of stuff, and it's completely in their hands once we give them the parts and pieces so that they can do what they want with it. And that's another thing that Todd has been working on the last week or so, is making it so that everywhere that you use a normal item, like I do this and I craft a thing, instead of it just being a normal item, it could be one of these function things. It could be a loot table. It could be an item. We want to treat everything as uniformly as possible so that design can make any decision they want and that it just works.
Yeah, so, it goes without saying that a core tenet of the game is risk reward for sure.
Yeah. and being able to have design make a lot of interesting decisions with just data means that they don't have to wait for the engineering team, which we're only so many people. So giving design more capabilities and being able to do more interesting gameplay really quickly is critical, because they can. It's not uncommon for Philip to be off on a branch for like a week, and he's got a completely different game than what I've seen, and it's only going to get more interesting with these kind of tools. Let's see. Todd also got. Oh, this is cool. So, well, cool to me. He refactored a bunch of our networking and our mod request system that allows players to do certain things. It was really hard to do before because one operation could be so many different things. Now it's all broken into little pieces, and there's a do undo. So if something fails, it doesn't break everything. And honestly, we've kind of engineered it such that previous tech tests, things weren't able to fail because we knew that this stuff would be horribly wrong and broken. Now we're kind of expecting people to carry a lot of items, run out of space in their inventory. Like there's going to be all these exceptional cases that we couldn't handle previously, but now we can. So that also lends us to saying we're at some point going to have what we hope is a bug-free inventory system. Man, I can't believe I said that out loud. Holy shit. That's really, it's asking a lot, but I'm hoping what we end up with is a bug-free inventory system that we test all the time with every kind of thing, because everything is jammed through the inventory and item system. When we do that, we trust it. And everything that has to be written needs to be tested a lot. And if everything is testing all this code all the time, then I trust it a lot more. So this is why in the game, what you guys will see is that Materium is an item. It's an inventory item. It's not a counter. It's not a special thing. It's an inventory item. There's ramifications for that. I'm not going to talk about that now. Todd also made it so that you can name your exemplars. All you guys with 100 exemplars with a scroll that goes on for days and you have no idea which ones you've played with, you get to name them. And you can leave the name on them so that the next time you come in, you're like, okay, I need to play this guy because he needs to go do this. That was kind of a hard thing before. And we heard you. We're sorry it took this long, but we got a lot going on.
And other players will see that. It's important to call that out as well.
Oh yeah, and that name is actually what people see. And also, along with being able to pick the name of your dude, you can also make it not be a dude. It can be a female now. So that's also something that Todd hooked up so that you can now pick gender every time you log in. We only sold male NFTs, right? Male NFTs. It's just NFTs. So we didn't pick the gender for you. You pick it. And if you want to change it every time you log in, fine. It should work. It won't make any difference. So that's all cool stuff. Jonas has been killing it on the World Sim. A big part of that is setting up the spawning system. And it's all design driven. So there's level designers who, a level designer who's really overworked, Paul. Hi. He's in there designing the whole levels and having the rest of the environment art team help him build it. And then he puts down the kinds of terrain and like dirt and mud and rocks and all that kind of stuff. And then that gets exported into the World Sim. And the designers, Don and Thomas and Philip, they get to go in and say, these kinds of things need to spawn in these kinds of areas. So we don't go in and place those very specifically in all the places. That would be too much work. There's just no way it could scale to a team this size and with the world the size we're aiming for. It's just not possible. So we built this tech that allows us to specify what makes sense and then have the engine do it. So, and it changes over time too. So if you go up and maybe there's a particular kind of mushroom somewhere, you find a place that would make sense where mushrooms are, they might be there, they might not. If you find them and you harvest them, they're no longer there. But when they do spawn, they'll be in another logical place that you could probably anticipate. So
we love that because you were thinking about the world and your understanding of the world and where things might grow. You're bringing to the zones, you're bringing to your party when you're out there adventuring. And that's a big thing. It's less fun if, oh, hey, that's where the mushroom respawns over there. Give it 5 minutes and you'll see it again. It's cooler if you guys learn the biomes, learn the ecosystem, and instead, it's a little more like over there is a place where mushrooms might grow, and you can lead people over there to maybe try to harvest them or see if they're there, which I love.
A lot of games promise an ever-changing world. We are actually building that.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. It's pretty hard tech to build, and it takes a long time. And I am really pleased that it's coming online as quickly as it has. Jonas is a beast, absolutely. Paul, go ahead and run that video.
So the first step, or the simplest way of explaining it, is basically spawning things more randomly in the world. So that we don't have, every time you start the game, you know exactly, oh, here is where the deer are, here's where the goblins are at. But instead, more random. Most of the rules are about what enemies or what mobs need to exist for the more rare mobs to spawn, and how often things can spawn, and how many we can have, and max numbers of this and that. And that's one part. And the other part is where things want to spawn. So we still have way more wolves and goblins, unfortunately, since they're now are not friends. But both of those prefer to spawn in caves, and also around fireplaces. Let's see. Yeah, and it's all, yeah. So here is grassland will spawn more deer, and all of this is just a bunch of CSV files. So now you can kind of change what spawns where. One of the next things we'll do is to make sure that the terrain have proper materials that have tags, so that more of this spawning can happen based on the geography, basically. The less of manual putting spawn points in the world, the better. It still works in conjunction with the traditional or the previous generation of the spawner, so we can still have very controlled places, like we could have a mother encounter or something like that, but the general wildlife and all that stuff is much more unpredictable.
Can be good and bad as well. We were always working through that.
Absolutely. So what you guys saw there at the very end was the brand new dynamic harvestable system that Jonas actually got working yesterday. Awesome. So a big part of that is making it so that harvestables in the previous tech test were actually just part of the level, and you can walk up to the same tree every time and hit the same F key, and you get to the same stuff out of it. And now those dynamic harvestables they're being spawned according to the spawn rules. You can walk up to them. You can basically harvest them, and right now it's one hit and it's done. But it deletes it, and other players in the zone see it go away the same way you do. So it's a fully networked object, and that is one of the reasons that I'm working on network level of detail, because we can't afford to send that much data. But again, this is all tech in service of the desire to have a very dynamic world that you get to explore. The last couple are not the least couple, as usual. Eric Tuvey is just an absolute monster when it comes to building AI. And we've been talking, he and I have worked together for many years. And we have talked about building a system like what we're about to show you guys for a long time. And every time that we talk about it, it's like, oh, but we'll never get that opportunity. We're getting that opportunity, and it's freaking amazing. So a big part of it is making monsters feel like they are alive and they're doing intelligent things that you would expect from something that is alive. Mirandus is not a game about monster piñatas where you just go up and punch them and they pop out some candy. There are things that have their own motivations, and they want to do things that benefit them. And part of that is they want to kill other things in order to eat them. Part of it is they may or may not feel like they're confident, and they could run away sometimes, or they could follow somebody that they feel is a stronger, maybe safer place to be when they're in a crowd versus off by themselves. So let's go ahead and run the next video here, and I think Eric talks over this one.
So this month, there's a lot of new AI behavior that you all see. It's still very much a work in progress, very, very rough, very chaotic. But we added hunting. And what that means is that goblins and wolves don't like each other. They can hunt prey, and you'll see that. We have some placeholder animations for drinking, eating, and sleeping. And that means that the deer, rabbits, and the wolves understand that they should do those things. The way I'm simulating that right now is that we have some timers for hunger, thirst, and fatigue that I basically just stuck some data in there, and those count down. And when they get thirsty, they want to go drink. When they get hungry, they want to go hunt or go find food to eat. And obviously, when they get tired, they want to go find a place to sleep. So we're tying into the tag system for all that stuff, like we've done over the last month or so. And finally added a debug visualizer for all NPCs in your vicinity, so you can tell what they're doing, and that's in the console/debug NPC on or off, and people have been using that. So yeah, go ahead and show the video, please. Behaviors. Here are some deer resting and eating, goblins eating a kill, wolves hunting a rabbit to kill and eat.
That's
Love
so cool.
Goblin chasing after a wolf to kill it and eat it, or hunting.
Oh my God, I'm watching a BBC. I feel like I'm watching BBC right now.
It's so much
Bro,
fun to
Planet
just go
Earth,
bird's eye
Planet
and just watch
Mirandus.
this stuff. Yeah.
They do
Wolves
travel in
going
flocks.
to the lake to drink some water,
Anybody got a good British impression?
getting distracted by deer to hunt. And finally, wolves returning to their den to get some rest.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
Thank y'all very much.
Nice, very nice.
Good job. That's awesome.
Eric, you said that would take 9 months, man. All right. I cannot tell you how happy that makes me that we've built this, guys. It is not easy to build, and it does take a long time to do. But you know, one of our core tenets that we promised you guys is that Mirandus is an adventure, to bring adventure back. And building a system like this means we don't know what's going to happen. If we know what's going to happen, then you'll learn what's going to happen too, and the game feels like a boring formula. But we are playing the game and testing it internally and having a lot of moments where, oh my God, look at that. You know, you're observing something. You're seeing them think. You don't know where things will be necessarily, but you can infer it. You know, I bet deer will show up to this drinking hole at some point. You know, I bet you're starting to kind of learn and feel and experience this natural environment. And I just love it so much. I love it so much. It's cool.
What's awesome is you can kind of watch and you can kind of imagine that these guys are making decisions constantly. Every monster in here is making decisions. Like, is this a good idea? Maybe there's a better idea. And actually, Paul, go ahead and run the next video. This one doesn't have a video.
Don't run it yet, Paul.
Wait, okay.
This is just my favorite video.
Do you want to? You can talk it over. Yeah. Why don't you take it from here?
There's a wolf running for his life from a goblin. The goblin identifies easier prey and switches to the deer, and eventually kills it.
Remember, guys, that deer could be you. You could be the easier prey.
I don't have to be fastest, but I do have to be faster than you.
I think in one of the Planet Earth series, you know, there was like this baby deer or something running from these wolves, and it's like that scene just reminds me of it so much. You know, to see that goblin chasing down something, choosing an easier prey, that little switch he does just feels so good. Feels so good. So anyway, guys, we've promised you that we would build a system like this. It is very hard to do, you know, in an MMO, in a server client world that we're living in. But it's there, it's stood up, and now it's so much of what we see and show is about getting it built and getting it tunable so that we can hand it to Don and Matt and other people on the team to, now that you have these knobs and you have this power and ability, how do you tune it to make it awesome? So we're there, and it's in, you know, it's just awesome.
Hey, Subspace has a really good question. Would the ecosystem be stable? Are we the instability in the system? And can we tell him about like our experiments?
Oh yeah, I mean it. Go ahead, Don. Don was just.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don
I mean,
talking about
the
this
answer
right
is,
before
there is no such thing as stability when you have a system that is out of our control. So that's actually what we want. We want the game to be something different, than we're even expecting, and it's different day to day. It's different week to week. So stability is the unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, if you guys go through and you kill all of the wolf food, you're gonna get a lot of wolves attacking humans. They will be more aggressive when they're hungry. They're looking for food, and they won't find a rabbit or a deer. They'll find you. So yeah, you guys are gonna poke at this ecosystem, and things are gonna happen, and we don't know exactly how that's going to unfold. What we have to balance, and Don was talking about this before, is how voracious things are. You could make a wolf that wants to eat every 5 seconds and just runs around and just kills, everything on the map. Instead, we need to tune it such that wolves are hungry at certain intervals. If they down a deer, that should be enough for 4, 5, 6 wolves to stand around and eat at. So, we do have to build in an ecosystem that is somewhat balanced. But yeah, when you guys start poking at it, it's going to totally change. And you guys can decimate a zone. I think they could decimate a zone.
It's worth pointing out that we're not balancing wolf kills per hour. That's not a number we do. We have hunger. We have sustenance that you can get from the deer. These are actual values that we're changing, and they'll change for everything when we change it.
So Las Vegas Lance guys in Discord is Mirandus is a survival game, and it is in so many ways. To me, there's just no exact genre that we would pin Mirandus on. I've always liked the words that it's a fantasy simulation. To me, that makes the most sense. This is a fantasy world. You're in it. And you need to eat, and things need to eat, and you want to push deeper into this dangerous world and find out its secrets, get treasure. So, yeah, it's a fantasy. We're trying to simulate a fantasy world for you guys. I mean, I think that's kind of the cool part of it all. So
many different labels apply. Like it's a fantasy simulation. It's also, in a way, it's an esport. In a way, it's a roguelite. In a way, it's a hunting game. Like it's all sorts of things, and it has elements of a lot of different kind of. I don't want to call it a mashup because I think that's a little bit derogatory, but we have a lot going on, and I think people are going to be really excited to get in there.
And layered with a real world economy, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think the most important thing, if you look at our product pillars, guys, like product pillar number 1 is that it's easy to play. It doesn't mean it's easy to win and to survive. That requires you to work with others. It requires strategy. It requires that you learn the world. But one of the things that we've stuck to that I really love is the game loads and you're just there. It makes sense. The world reacts in intuitive ways. You're observing things that make sense. You know that armor will help protect you if you get bit. You're not overwhelmed with UI and 500 little spinny plate subloops. You're just there. So I think it's a second to learn and a lifetime to master.
Well, I think that's pretty much it for the tech team. Like that's
hold on, roll the goblin hunting video again, Paul. Come on.
It's kind of easy to enjoy watching this.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I love the dudes in the actual game. I sit there and watch it all the time.
Just love the aerial shot.
Yeah, it's fantastic when the deer tries to get water and it goes to the watering hole where everybody else is also getting water, and then the deer dies immediately. It's amazing.
That's actually been a bit of a problem, keeping the monsters alive long enough for players to get in and do something.
Love it. Whew. Matt, art stuff. Cool, man. Talk to us.
Art stuff. Well, we got a couple of big buckets to talk about. There's characters, we've got concepts, and we've got environment. So let's cue up the video for the characters. We've been working hard, harder than you might ever expect, to make sure that the right look for our exemplars is what we end up with. Something that doesn't detract, something that still feels rooted in reality, but has to be stylized to a lower polyform. We also had to invent our female cast, like Jason talked about earlier. You're going to get to choose your gender, and so far we've only had a single selection. So we've overhauled the entire thing from concept all the way through all these final models. This is the first time you get to see them all together. And yeah, here they all are. And so this has been a big effort, and now we're working on integrating these guys into the game. We've also been going back through, we had some stand-in goblins that you guys have gotten to play test, but we had aspirations that they'd be a little more severe, a little more interesting. And so we overhauled them. And the rest of this is weapons. Well, there's more to this in the video, but there's a ton of weapons that we're going to be dumping into the game under Don's supervision, of course. Mm-hmm. And gear. So rather than just the few things that you guys have had access to in the past, there's going to be a lot more gear opportunities to explore inside of Mirandus. And so here's a few. Oh my God. Yeah. The Prince Valiant. You have to pay Materium to get better hairstyles. That's it. That's just. But yeah, tons of updates coming for what's going to be possible, what's going to be accessible in the game for gear and weapons and everything else. We are going to come back to the goblins here in just a second. I think it's the next thing that's coming up. Oh, no, sorry. Here's a couple of animation explorations into casting and what that can feel like first person and third person. Sorry, there's a bunch of experiments that are all sort of inside this thing together. Also, so far, our faces have been stone-faced because we haven't had any rig in there. But now we are going to get a rig, so we'll be able to express and even map it to voices eventually. Here's the goblins I was talking about. This is an animation test where we took those models and we sliced them up real quick and gave them to the animation team so they could start putting the kind of attitude onto these things that we're really looking for. So I think this is just going to be chilling to see these things moving around in the final environment. Certainly a departure from where we've been, which has been good. It's been a useful test, but I think this is a big improvement on the way that they're going to feel. And like we said before, these are literally just the videos we take when we're sharing them internally with the team. So these aren't final. These are explorations. This is us testing out the way things will feel and look. Like eventually that hand will grasp that weapon, but the gross movements are what we focus on at this phase. Mm-hmm.
This guy's big.
Yeah, he's huge. He's huge, and he's going to be intimidating to deal with.
I think it's the biggest creature we've put in so far.
Yeah.
It's a lot bigger than the brute from the previous tech test.
It makes the brute look silly. Like
brute was silly, man. It was weird. Come on.
It was always silly. It was always silly.
Okay, now hold on. I got to talk about this. We are not having Death Walk.
These are just experiments. Yeah, like I was saying, these are just visual experiments.
You would be in the purgatory space in this case.
Purgatory space.
Yeah. Purgatory space. Right.
Yeah. But tunable post-processing is really
Yeah, that's the thing to pay attention to as we're exploring like what's going to be possible. How we use different techniques is still totally, up for grabs.
But I like the idea that it could look that way in Purgatory, or maybe even get a glimpse at the cemetery before you respawn and have it look like that as well.
Yeah, maybe the moment right before respawn. Yeah, that would be wonderful. Lots of effects tests as we're figuring out a number of things. How do we explain what's happening, but how do we also land the visual style to make sure that it's consistent with all the other things that we're putting into the game? So there's a number of things that we're trying to juggle as we explore what our effects will look like. And always it's a balance between keeping it feeling natural. Like we don't want a lot of things that feel too gamey. So we want to make sure it feels integrated into the rest of the ecosystem that we have.
These are all just so pretty.
Yeah, G's awesome.
Oh yeah, and big props to G Lush. He's our effects artist, and like he created this entire water system from scratch for us, and it's just a lot. I mean, it's a huge endeavor, and he makes it look simple. Great.
Cool,
so yeah, that's part one. The other two, I think there's a talking track already. So I'll let Hugo is our concept lead, and you guys have enjoyed a lot of his concepts. It's what you're looking at behind the scenes here, behind our pictures. And so he's got a thing on concepts. I'll let him just talk for himself.
Yeah, we have been working on a lot of armors recently. Like Ryan made a lot of cool design for a lot of legendary, epic, ancient kind of armor. It's very, very super cool. It's a lot of ideas. Eventually, we have to implement probably in this biome more statues, research, explorations. I've been working also on a runes kit for Ardepron zone. So this is some 3D based sketches I made on Blender, just to explore what could look like an ancient wall, an ancient building. It's not specific, any specific building. It's more like a generic kit. And I work also on some gravestones for the 10 by 10 plots. So I had different ideas I share with the team already. Some fallen tower, stones and grass, and just to give an ancient storytelling. You can see some pirate stones inside the cliff around the sea. That's pretty cool. He was also working on some armor shop, so he made a lot of proposition for the house.
Yeah, here you can see where we're going to go with some of it. So you guys saw the current version is kind of the top left, but this is where it's gonna go. So further updates.
We also explore the quarry. Before Peter was starting, we had this idea of toxic river inside the quarry, or maybe it could not be in the game, but we had this this kind of props and ramps, and I made 3 or 4 different ones. This one I just made the exterior. This one was the main temple, or the main building for the King's March. Those sketches were for Red Shores. It's another biome, but it's for the phase 2 on continent 1. Aggressive crabs, and everything is red. You have red seaweeds. You have ochre, red stones. Trying to have a pretty creepy vibe for this kind of plate.
So creepy.
Yeah, it was fun. I like the idea of having the the light, the lantern. You have some really powerful white light. It's almost like a torchlight, a modern torchlight. So a strong light. It creates a lot of shadows and dramatic light. It's pretty cool to imagine having that kind of vibe of storytelling moment in the game.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's it. That's it for the concept team.
So cool.
Beautiful stuff. And a lot of
Pretty
previews
amazing.
of what's going to come down the pipe eventually. Because concept always has to work way far out in front of the next scene. So you can see where it's going to go. I'll keep us rolling. The next video, we'll just keep rolling into that, is the environment team. So you got to see some of the beautiful shots all composed together by Manuel. By the way, big shout out. He made that piece that we got to watch at the beginning, which is breathtaking. But yeah, let's roll the environment team. You get to hear them talk for themselves about what they've been working on.
So mostly been focused on King's March for the tech test, looking at some Ds and plots placements. So we've got some of those spec'd out. We've been moving them around as sort of the terrain is malleable. So kind of just keeping an eye on that. We got some shops in, which you'll see in the video, some interiors, which are pretty cool. Spent some of the month on spotting, and then just the past couple of days I've been working with Jonas on getting the world sim cooked up. So part of that was just me placing some of the tags in the world and seeing how that system works up. So as this starts coming more to life, we'll have a lot more tags in here. And after talking to Jonas, it's going to be pretty badass how this is all going to work out. And then also just thinking about how some of the other zones meet up with King's March, and we want to figure out the topology perspective, making sure the continent is a nice contiguous landmass and it's not kind of segregated in all the zones. As you can see, some of the larger rock formations here are just more of the representation of the zone nearby.
So Brian is the main keeper of this whole area of King's March. We were just all assigned a different section of the map.
Yeah, so I was focused mainly this month on geology, trying to get the mountains in, all the prefabs placed, and making some new prefabs where needed, and tuning the terrain, trying to make different areas of the zone seem memorable. And we still are going to make additional caves. We still have additional, like Peter said, a lot of details and a lot of just tuning all of the final materials and adding the small props and everything in here. But yeah, you definitely check out the world, run around, tell us what
ruins here. So basically just creating a variety of ruins and some design around there for the player to run around. Working off of Hugo's concept, so it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, this is the quarry. I still have a lot of work to do in here, but it's so far it's in a good place. I need to make some changes to the different levels there. I thought I would add some walkways across from the thing itself, so to give it more of an impact as the players walking around and so on.
Yeah, this is the 10 by 10 meter cemetery, or glimpse out in the project, courtesy of Hugo. And this is the armor shop. I presented a couple of layout to Paul, and he made a mix between them to get the current layout. I've been working with Dylan on the art side to make it look cool. And the shop has multiple display with armor parts and 3 countertops the player can interact with to buy stuff.
I love that.
All good stuff.
Love that armor shop too, Matt.
Yeah, it really did come out great. It's cool to be in and walk around. And that quarry, which I think is gorgeous, by the way, is just a Peter special. Like, nobody asked for a quarry, but one day Peter just starts saying, we need a quarry, Matt. And I'm like, well, I don't know, do we, is it got anything to do with anything? And he's like, well, I think it'd be great. And you can't deny him. He's going to make it. He wants it. And he did a great job. It's just absolutely a cool space to be in and see all the negative space it creates. It's beautiful.
Well, I thought the armor shop too. I mean, I just, I have in my mind walls and a door, to open that up and have it be something you really can kind of observe from the outside of the building was just really, really cool. Really
cool. Design gets a lot of props for that too. That was all the way back to conception with Paul, when he was laying it out and talking about the different points of intersection that he wanted to play. And then we sent it back and forth between modeling and concept to make sure that it felt and looked right. Yeah, it was a cool team project, that one.
Yeah, it was rad. Yeah, Glorymar, Glorymar is just kind of our secret weapon.
She's amazing.
She's so great. We need to have, Glorymar would never go for this. We should bring Glorymar.
She would probably kill you.
I'm just kidding, Glorymar, kidding.
But everyone would love her. She's great, though. She's really, really
She's
good.
so sweet. She's amazing. Yeah. That's a lot of the meat. That's a lot of the meat on the bone there, guys. So I'm gonna hit you with a couple other things, and then we'll try to move to a Q&A. But you might have heard, I think Eric leaked that we're gonna try to keep this next tech test live, and we are. One of the things that you guys have asked for before is don't take it down after a week or two. Just let us play. Let us continue to come in and play. So we are going to do this with the release of the next test, guys. And what we like the idea of is, and we feel like we're kind of getting to this point from a development perspective, is that we can do it. We can keep it live. It is a lift for our team to do so, but you'll always be able to come into Mirandus and play. And then what we want to do is we want to keep that live and then just be pushing you guys new builds. We're thinking the regular cadence is probably every quarter, but it could be more frequent than that if we have a push that we need to get out there and test. And also to understand, guys, that, and you guys are always so cool about this, but, if we have to take the build down, we absolutely will. This world will not be persistent. So don't think of it like you're there and you're just, leveling up forever. We'll probably need to reset the server and your progress. We like the idea of it maybe being weekly for now. And then over time, it'd be 2 weeks. Over time, it could be 3 weeks. Over time, as we get more and more of mastery, the progression in the buildings, the deeds, everything we need to deliver to you guys, we like the idea of extending that more and more over time. But this next tech test, I think what we're thinking is, and correct me if I'm wrong here, guys, that, that it'd be up and we'd reset your progress and everything on about a weekly cadence. Is that right?
I think
we'll decide it and let everyone know.
If we do it on a weekly cadence, that means I get to sleep every 7 days. Is that right?
No, Jason, there's no sleep.
I don't get to.
Oh, no sleep for you. Come on, red meat. Throw red meat at Jason. No sleep. Yeah, I think one of the other things that that we're pretty hot on, guys, is that in this next test, you will be able to have more of a direct relationship with Materium. So this is a pretty big lift, but we're targeting it that in this next tech test, it will be live. And as you kill goblins in the world, you will be able to earn Materium that you can spend in this weekly reset or be able to claim as an ERC 20. So we're still digging into all of those pieces, parts that we have to build to make that possible, but that's another thing we're targeting. So that's pretty beefy. It'll be up, it'll be live, and you can earn Materium when you play as a game reward and as a thank you. So that's pretty cool. That is pretty cool. Manny, you said you were about to say something.
I just want to clarify, because you have been able to earn Materium before as a game reward, but we give it to you. Like, Jason, we could look through all the logs and we see who killed what.
CSVs.
Right. So it won't be that. What you're saying is
kill goblin.
Earn it as you play.
Kill goblin, loot creature, get thing in hand. And so again, guys, there's some tech that we're having to build to try to make that possible, but that is our goal. And it's a heavy lift, but we love you guys. Feel like it's, part of just fulfilling the promises. And every time we're getting closer and checking those promises off the list, we all feel better and sleep better. You guys are awesome. You've been with us for years now, since the beginning, and game development is very, very slow when you start. It's just very slow. there's so many big fundamental things that take a lot of time to explore, a lot of time to build, and then it starts to get faster and faster and faster. And I think you guys are starting to see that. A lot of the fundamental stuff has been built, and now you're going to see a tremendous amount of content and features going in over the course of the next year. So anyway, we love you guys and hope this was a cool update for you. Yeah, Shipwreck goes live on Monday. I'm trying to think, there wasn't a thing that I want to discuss, which is we need to probably get with a small contingent of you guys. Think of it as a micro forum, but maybe people from Everglen or Mirandus Farmers or Mom. We probably need to get 8 to 10 of you in a room, because I think it's going to be the best format to really talk about how ownership and wallet integration and all of that works in relationship to the game. And I'll give you a for instance. Like you have Materium. If you have Materium and it's an ERC 20, obviously you can't be walking around the game and playing with it, right? You could bridge that over to GALACHAIN, then we can spend it more freely, because it's just faster, obviously, and the gas fees would be non-existent. So like, how exactly does all of this work? What is in your hand? What are in your accounts? What is on your Gala account? What does that exemplar have? And how all of those things intersect with the chain? And when are your inputs and outputs and exit points for bringing that into the game or the ecosystem? How is that locked? We have a lot of ideas for this, but this is going to be one of those things where I like the idea that we get this next tech test out, that we can meet with a group of you guys to sit there and just brainstorm the crap out of this. So, and then have some proposals that we can give to everyone in the community, and you guys all can kind of look at them, or we can vote on them or something. But it's complex, and we want to do it the right way, and we want to do it in a way that honors what you guys are excited about. So be on the lookout for that early mid next year.
Could you clarify by room? Do you mean like a Skype session room? Or
I mean, physically go somewhere and sit there on dry erase boards, and we can present you stuff and brainstorm stuff and talk about the complexities of some of this. So I don't mean a Zoom call. I mean, like, let's get together. And honestly, man, I think we need like I'd love next year if we had like a Mirandus Con or something, something where we all could get together. I really miss, especially, I miss the tavern from that first Galaverse. I mean, that made me feel like I got a chance to really sit down with you guys, and we were all there and talk about the game. And so I'm kind of desperate for that tavern moment. If we're trying to do something like that, just know we always pick somewhere that is easy to get to. It's not going to be a multi-sitch. That was not easy to get to. Like, half of us got COVID too, man. And I was not patient zero. All right, despite what anyone says. We'll try to figure out a place that's not too hard to get to, but we all can meet up. And a lot of times it ends up being Vegas, guys, just because for those of you in software that always have to do these kind of offsites and stuff, this, but Vegas is it's easy to fly to, and it's the cheapest place you possibly can go. There's always rooms available, always conference areas available. So maybe it'd be something like that. But yeah, plan on that, guys. We really need to get together again. And there's people on the team they haven't met yet, really hung out with. So it'd be cool to meet more people of the team. Yeah, Mirandus meetup, Dirty Dan says, and in Discord. That's right. Let's take a few questions. Like, just fire them in there. Does it matter? Ramega's asking, does it matter if you have multiple exemplars or no difference? You can just play with one main, Ra. It's up to you. I think in previous tests, it was helpful for us to have a lot of different exemplars log in, and then I think we were able to give you a reward per each exemplar. But I think, we want to start moving the tests more and more over time towards the live actual game. And in the live actual game, you're not going to get a bonus just for having an exemplar. You'd need to be playing it. And ultimately, for the people that have bought multiple exemplars, what we need to do is have the rental system stood up. But so for now, I think you would probably, for this next test, you would probably choose your main and be playing with that predominantly.
There's some questions about when the next test is.
Yeah.
I'm not going to commit to any date. I don't think any of us can. I know, right? It's a surprise. No, we have a lot of tech we still haven't built yet, and there's a decent amount of stuff that we think it's going to be done next week, but it actually takes a month. So before we can actually commit to a date, we have to get the things done that we know are in the next test. So guys, we don't have a date for you, but we're going to aim for Q1 sometime. Don't expect it in January and February. So it's probably not early in next Q1.
I think the end of Q1 is probably, what might be reasonable. And again, guys, this, and you've always been so patient. It's, if something comes up or we're digging in, or even if there's an opportunity, I find that if there's gosh, if we just got this one little thing and it would really sing, it's important to go ahead and implement that. But our target as a team, guys, is the end of Q1 for that build to go up. And again, to keep it live, if we can, unless we have to murder the server for a second and take it down. But Captain Nero hears it in the voice. Look at him, dude. He's calling you out, Jace.
He does that all the time.
No masteries, Cal Elf. That is very, very high on the list. It constitutes, getting that in really constitutes progression. And that is, we have a ton of work and design there. But to implement that is probably the next step, I think.
Yeah.
Progression and crafting Dawn, I think, are the next big releases after this. Right.
Absolutely. And to some degree, when we're setting it relatively commonly, you actually don't want to have that sort of mastery progression. We don't need it yet.
Yeah. So what, really, guys, I think what this next build is putting a pin in, for all intents and purposes, is do we have combat in a living world that is performant with hundreds of you in there at the same time and hundreds of creatures in the zone? We got some of that last time, but we didn't have AI. We really didn't have we had AI. We didn't have living characters that had goals. And so, getting all of this stood up, having it be performant and having hundreds of you there, trying to get Materium rewards more directly linked to goblins, those are things that we really, really want to get in and really want to push for. The voice will be pretty janky, I think, but having any voice at all, that'll be pretty awesome. Have you guys start to be able to communicate with each other while you're playing. So, those are things that we really need your help testing. So as
There's
always,
a lot of networking. Yeah, a ton of it is networking and getting that to handle the brutality of hundreds or thousands of players logged in at once. That's big, because we want. And Sevorg was asking how many zones we're going to have in this next test. It's just going to be one. We want everybody focused in one space, and that makes Don's job a lot harder because that's only one zone to balance, and that means players can locust the whole thing, and it messes everything up for a little while, and then it kind of restores itself. But we need all the players and all the monsters in one spot so we can maximize our test and see how the servers handle it. Because we added voice, we've got more data going through for player movement. There's all this extra stuff that we need to be able to test, and it's largely going to come down to how do the servers handle it, and did we do the network LOD properly? And it's been a tremendous amount of tech that you won't see, in addition to the things that we've already mentioned that you will see.
On voice, Punjab, yes. He's asking, will there be distance of voice in the world? Yes. That's kind of the point. You know, you will hear things, you know, what we're working towards that you hear things naturally. You're, you know, if they're farther away, you would hear them as a whisper. If they're close, you hear them louder. It's already has that in there, and it's spatial, but it's not tied into the audio system we have. So it still sounds a little bit like it's a phone call, but it's kind of like you're holding the phone a little farther away. It's still cool. It still feels good, but it's different when we actually make it sound like you're in a field or sound like you're in a cave. So there's a lot of that work to do, but yeah, they'll be there. And Corbin's asking, you know, we keep getting asked for controller integration.
That's kind of been there since the first tech test.
Yeah, if you want to remap it.
It's in there. It's just you have to go back and change the key bindings text file that points to your controller. There's probably something we can do to make it work better, but right now it's a little like it's the Unity way, which isn't necessarily the easy way, but it's just a map this button to this action, and all of that's in the text file, so you can do that.
Yeah, we'll see if we can, you know, we'll see if we can make it easier, guys. But so it's possible, but
you got to kind of want it right now.
Will the Goblin voice converter be live? A Klingon Goblin voice converter be live? You know, I'll tell you one thing that is true: the goblins, you will hear them talking when they're out there. You might be able to overhear them talking, and you know, Mike and Roy, you know, it is speaking a language. We already kind of have some of those roots built. We want there to be a language in Mirandus. It will be kind of our Klingon, if you will. And if someone learned to speak it, they would be able to hear the words that they're actually saying. So that's kind of cool and important to us. There's so much that we're doing, guys, and have done that it's like you have to future-proof your game. If you try to build some of this stuff in later, it just doesn't work out right. For instance, the material system. Maybe, you know, we use it all the time. Maybe we use it sparingly, but at least we have that material system built with a concept of what is wood, what is stone, what is, you know, like if we say in the future, oh, something can light on fire, you know, I'm totally making everyone's head spin on my team right now, but it'd be good to know that something is flammable versus not based on the data that we can provide for materials. No, the big boss in this one is not Mother again. No. Tavern Games. Coots is asking about Tavern Games. Yeah, man, Tavern Games is really close, and we're just like trying to. It's always about development time and development hours, guys. It's like if we're trying to get this build up and live, that takes a chunk of our live ops. And so, you know, the trade-off is, could we also stand up Tavern Games and have it be in live ops? And it's like, I'm hesitant to take that much of the team to ensure that it's updated and working well. You know, I'd rather have you guys be able to walk around Mirandus. Let's get that up and running. But I definitely want Tavern Games to get out to you and get live. But there's bells and whistles I want in Tavern Games too that kind of tie it all together. For instance, log in with your exemplar, and when you play Tavern Games, you could actually see your avatar. You could see your exemplar sitting there as you've equipped them when you're playing the game, instead of it being a generic one. You know, so how deep do we want to take some of that feature set, and what is the lift of the team to get that live is just, it's an ongoing conversation, but we like it and want to get it in your hands. But our primary focus is making sure you guys can walk around the 3D world first. Yeah. So Sir Haytham's asking, like, the video that I love. Yeah, it looks like the goblin attacks the deer, and the deer is like really far away from him. You know, which is like, yeah, that's basically at that point, and this is, you know, to Jason's point of getting the network stuff to be as fast and great as possible. I think he actually hits the deer, and the deer dies, you know, 0.3 seconds later, which, you know, is actually transitioned away. So the goblin accomplished his goal. The deer was away. That video was shot a long time ago. Not a long time ago, but 3 weeks, 2-3 weeks ago, I think. So that's all been tightened up. they actually would drop, even if you killed them and there was a slight distance between them, the goblin would close that distance now to eat at the carcass. So you wouldn't see that stuff. But that's probably why that happened. And that's, network speed. We want you guys seeing things and having there be distances in relationship to what you would expect in real life. And sometimes that latency and lag makes it look a little funny. So it's always like, how tight can we make that as part of how tight and performant can we make that as an ongoing thing? Proximity aggro. Punjab's asking about, are we back to proximity aggro? What do you mean? Like if I get near something, does it piss something off?
I think the short answer is it depends on the creature. I think we're making that a lot more robust depending on what kind of personality we want the creature to show.
So I mean, you'll one of our goals, I think, Punjab, is that, again, don't think of it like a game. If you start thinking like a game, you start doing gamey weird things, So would a wolf attack you in real life? And the answer is probably not, depending on how well he was fed. Where are they in relationship to their young? How large is the pack? How far away are they seeing you from maybe where they live? How, so I don't like I like the idea, I should say, that if they're hungry, a hungry pack of wolves is going to chase you down from long distances if they see you. A few wolves that you might encounter, I like the idea they would stop, look over at you, and then maybe walk away if they were fully fed. So that's just a little more of that depth. Again, we're building that system out. And it's in data, and a lot of this is tunable. So do things aggro you all the time at the same distance? To me, that's not quite as interesting as depending on their state.
Punjab clarified. He was asking if you could train somebody on, or a monster onto another player. I think the answer is maybe, because it depends on whether that monster feels like it's easier to kill the person you're training it on versus you. He's actually looking at you and making decisions.
Yeah, and and living creatures, they'll have different kind of levels of intelligence. Like I think a wolf or a wild creature is more protective in its nature, whereas a goblin would be more pissed off and spiteful. Like, if you hit that goblin, it's pissed at you. And it's going to want to chase you down versus just getting to the next closest thing. Now, a hungry wolf might go for the next closest thing. But I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Don, that would be more what we would expect. You are a creature would look at you, be more angry at you because you've smacked it with a stick, right?
It depends. We even talked about, like, depending on what kind of things you have on you, potentially things would be attracted to. We have a lot of tags and a lot of systems that utilize those tags, and we're very interested in seeing what organically pops up.
Yeah, looting, guys. We'll have to, it's not going to be the same as the last build, I don't think. Again, it's a massive system to build that's going to piss off somebody to talk about what your combat contribution was and therefore what you get to loot and how much. So I don't know. That's definitely kind of a Q1 thing that we'll reach out to you guys about. We'll talk about probably what's the easiest system or two that we could try in this next one that's better than what we had last time. We haven't tried PvP internally.
We did it once by mistake when it was left turned on, and we just killed each other for 30 minutes, and then we couldn't play.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, the game, as far as the game knows, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Jason, but there's things in the world, and those things are performing actions in a physics-based environment, and we've disabled that so that it's you guys versus the enemies of the world. But can we kill each other? Does the server care? I don't think the server cares, Jason, about exemplars versus a wolf, right?
No, if we wanted that to happen, we'd take the code out that prevents it. Like by default, it would work. But the problem is, this is a one world server, right? Everyone across the whole world is talking to the server at the same time, same set of servers. So if you have somebody in New Zealand who has a 250 millisecond ping, and somebody who lives in some part in Virginia close to the data center where our Amazon servers are running, that guy's got a 5 millisecond ping versus 250 millisecond ping. He's got an advantage. It's just not fair. And I don't want anybody blaming, you're closer to the server, so you're killing me all the time. It's just not. It's not a good experience. It's just not.
There's a pace and a rhythm to the game, guys, that we're designing and building into the combat system that it's not meant to be Twitch. It's meant to be slightly more strategic, more like a hunt. And part of that is to accommodate the one world thing. And I feel like you guys want that. You want one world of Mirandus that everyone has played and engage in. If that's not cool or fun for you guys, and you wanted multiple servers, I'm in Mirandus East, Mirandus West, Mirandus 6. I just think that kind of sucks. So that hasn't been the game that we've been building, but maybe we've talked about PvP being in arenas. Maybe there's that possibility that would be somehow based in different geolocations or something, Jason. I don't know, but
sounds complicated.
Yeah, I mean,
got a lot to build. We're
trying to make a world. And this is the world of Mirandus, and you guys are all in it at the same time. So, that's our primary focus.
When it comes to doing things like arenas, I kind of suspect we're going to need to do some special coding to adjust people's lag time to all be the same. I mean, you don't want that the rest of the game. You don't. You want it as fast as possible. But when you go into an arena, I can make somebody slower. I can make them both come in about it at the same time. And that makes it sort of fair, but not in the rest of the world. It's a terrible experience. That's what we had. If you look at it, we had a 250 to 300 millisecond lag on the last tech test. That was to make it all fair all the time. And we took that out, and now the game feels real time. It's a huge difference. So I don't think we want to go back to where it was.
It's a balance there, guys. Yeah, Subspace is talking about, can ping be normalized? And I think we're trying to do that. We're not going to normalize to the worst case scenario, but if the game has it's about feel. The game has a certain pace and has a certain rhythm. So, yeah. Well, guys, I hope that was a cool update for you. Be on the lookout for some sort of meetup next year. I really think we need to do that. We need to make that happen. And yeah, Manuel, is this a...
Before we go, please smash the like button, subscribe, and share the video.
All right, guys. Hope that was a cool update for you. Everyone, thank you so much.
See you guys.